This is CBC Winnipeg News.
The conditions are extremely dry, and there's a very high risk of wildland fires. We need the participation and the help of everyone in the public to abide by the burn ban.
Thick, black, billowing plumes of smoke as far as the eye can see. A quick-spreading grass fire in Transcona damages business. High winds and soaring temperatures have fire crews around the province on high alert. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It's been a challenging afternoon and weekend for fire crews around the province. We begin our coverage tonight in Transcona. After hours, a massive grass fire that spread to some businesses along Gun Road is now contained. But high winds and water supply issues caused problems for first responders. CBC's Cameron McLean is on scene tonight. So, Cameron, what's the latest out there?
I'm at the corner of Gun Road and Day Street. And behind me, you can see firefighters are still on scene battling the blaze. And the plume of smoke is considerably smaller than it was earlier. This is what it looked like just a few hours ago. Thick black smoke billowing high into the air. I could see it from downtown Winnipeg earlier. Now, the fire started in a grassy area around 2 p.m. Firefighters evacuated nearby businesses, and we spoke to Murray Rougeau, who is a retired firefighter who lives in the area. He describes what he saw and heard.
And then with this wind and everything, it's gotten into some kind of buildings in there. I'm not too sure. It's abandoned cars, maybe. You do hear explosions there. It could be empty tanks or whatever. I'm just not, I'm not sure there.
Police have blocked off roads and are directing traffic away from the area. Now, no injuries have been reported so far. High winds and a lack of water supply made fighting this fire very difficult for firefighters. And Deputy Fire Chief Scott Wilkinson says they're asking people to abide by the city's burn ban.
Conditions are extremely dry, and there's a very high risk of wildland fires. We need the participation and the help of everyone in the public to abide by the burn ban, watch smoking materials, do everything they can, because any fire in these heat and wind conditions spreads quickly, as we've seen here today, and it can cause catastrophic loss.
Now, firefighters say they think the fire is mostly contained, but Wilkinson says he expects crews to be on scene well into this evening. Brittany?
And that's CBC's Cameron McLean this evening. Now, meantime, evacuations have been ordered in the Bird River area because of a wildfire in that region. All residents and cottages around the area have been asked to leave. The evacuation zone includes Ridge Road, Pioneer Drive, Beaver Drive, Moose Row, and Southland Church Bible Camp. A designated evacuation center has been set up at the Great Falls Community Hall. Officials are also updating their social media pages and website. 4 homes have been evacuated and people are being asked to stay away from a fire burning near the community of Lebo. The RM of St. Clements says the fire in the Marsh area started from a lightning strike last night. It grew overnight and spread northeast and is getting dangerously close to some homes. Firefighters from multiple areas are on scene helping out there. The province also sent water bombers to attack the fire from above. Now, as we mentioned, high winds and high temperatures have been the biggest issues around the province. They're helping fuel these grass fires and wildfires, with flames getting dangerously close to people's homes. Crews from BC are now here to help, and officials are urging people to obey the burn ban. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
Hotspots burn at Oakhammock Marsh Monday morning.
This was a surprise fire for us. It was not planned at all.
Jacques Bourgeois thinks a lightning strike started a wildfire Sunday night. The areas still burning are within the marsh and contained by water. Bourgeois says fire got close to a new discovery center opening later this month.
Having fires in the whole province like we're having right now, it's unusual. It's been a really dry spell for the past few weeks. We hadn't had significant rains in a long time.
Super sad. Beautiful forest to come and see, and so much wildlife live here.
Adela Streichhardt is getting a look at the forest behind her McPhillip Street home. It was charred in a grass fire Monday. She smelled smoke at about 4 in the morning.
We were concerned, and I actually started waking the neighbors up because I was really worried that it was going to reach one of our homes.
She's glad it wasn't worse.
I know a lot of kids like to have secret fires back there, and everyone likes to have their fair share of fun. It's a great time in the city right now, but it's no joke.
A fire ban is in place in Winnipeg. With more hot, dry, and windy conditions on the way, Strike Hearts wants people to pay more attention.
I didn't realize how seriously people should take fire bans. Now, you think it's just a precaution. It's not a precaution. It can just like that in a moment change hundreds of people's lives.
This fire north of the Paw forced hundreds of people from their homes last week. It's still considered out of control. Crews from BC are now in Manitoba to help put it out. Lori Forbes is with the RM of Kelsey.
Long weekend's coming up. I want everyone to be well aware and remember that we have a very strict fire ban on effect for our area.
Strike Hearts says the fire on McPhillips took a couple hours to put out. And the city says 2 other grass fires in Winnipeg were quickly extinguished Monday morning. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Let's bring in CBC's Riley Lachuk now. Riley, we've had these very, very high temperatures, that very strong wind. This is something we've been contending with for a number of days. And like you said, we really just need some rain.
Yeah, and I do have some rain in the forecast, actually a good measurable rain coming up in the long range later in the week, which I'll get to later on. Starting with the wind, though, which has been another problem today. I mean, not as windy as it was over the weekend, but even now as we head into the evening, south winds 20 gusting to about 40 in Winnipeg. Have seen some gusts up to 50 and 60 across southern Manitoba throughout the afternoon. But this has started to slowly drop off west to east as we've gotten through the afternoon. Even Portage now at a sustained wind of 7 kilometers an hour. So that wind is dying down. We'll get a bit of a break from it tonight, but then the wind starts to pick up once again as we get into the day on Tuesday. Daytime temperatures today, 35 degrees in Winnipeg, a record breaker, breaking a record from 1958 unofficially this afternoon in the city of Winnipeg. 35 in Winkler, 33 in Brandon, close to 30 into the Parkland region, and above seasonal even into northern Manitoba, 18 degrees in Thompson. So yes, another scorcher. That's prompted this heat advisory, this heat warning that remains in place for much of the Red River Valley, the city of Winnipeg, into northwestern Ontario, which will get another day of temperatures like these, even hotter in some cases, as we get into the day on Tuesday. Now, this has also started to fuel up some thunderstorm activity, so mainly sunny skies across Manitoba, a bit of scattered showers into the southeast. But on the Saskatchewan side, I've been watching this cell here that has started to make its way into the Yorkton region. This is making its way up into the Porcupine Mountains. We'll talk about that needed rain when I come back.
All right, thank you, Riley.
Welcome.
Canadian beef producers are seeing record-breaking prices as cattle prices have soared. Farmers say the swell is helping them rebuild after years of stagnant pricing. CBC's Chelsea Kemp visited an auction to find out more.
Watching bids at a recent cattle auction in Verdun, producer Barry Lowe's is in awe as prices soar to never-before-seen levels.
Well, they're all amazed at the prices, but everybody's like, it's just quite a spectacle. It's very nice to watch.
332.5, Lowe's had a record-setting bull sale in February, and prices have continued to climb. Livestock Markets Association of Canada says cattle prices are on the rise because the country has fewer cows than it used to.
We're going to be starting off with a cow.
CEO Rick Wright says the last time the market was this hot was in 2015. Prices are nearly $100 higher than a decade ago.
We've hit a new threshold on that, price basis. So it looks good. I'm not sure how much more the consumer can afford to pay for beef. It's becoming a luxury food, a little bit like lobster, that it's going to be for special occasions and that type of thing.
One farmer says the price surge is giving some a golden parachute out of the industry.
Pretty nice when you see guys walk out of the auction mart with holding their check in their hands and just big smile on their face. It's been a long time coming.
Producer Trevor Atchison says the high prices can make it hard for newcomers to buy into cattle and for seasoned producers to beef up their herds.
It's supply and demand, and there's lots of demand. So the supply is tight. It just keeps those prices either increasing or at least holding for the foreseeable future, but barring any outside influences.
Well, Atchison isn't planning on adding to his herd for now. He expects prices will stay high until cattle numbers climb back up. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Verdun.
Many Canadians appear to be still opting out of traveling south. Early Statistics Canada numbers for April show a sharp drop in return trips from the U.S. Now, last month saw a 35% drop in cross-border vehicle trips. That's compared to April of last year. Canadians coming back by air has declined nearly 20%. It's the third straight month of this downward trend. Many Canadians have been boycotting the U.S. over tariffs and threats of annexing Canada. Coming up, tax bills are landing in mailboxes, but some Manitobans are facing sticker shock when they open them. The latest, up next.
I'm Ian Fraser of the Manitoba Legislature. Tax bills are landing in Winnipeg mailboxes with a thud. We heard during question period Monday, one family in the arm of St. Clements is seeing their taxes rise by 25%. Now, there's a few reasons for this: school divisions increasing taxes, and the NDP scrapping the old 50% rebate on education taxes for a $1,500 credit. The Tories asked Premier Wab Kinew what he'd say to the homeowners paying more.
What I say to that family and to every family across Manitoba is we're so excited to go to work for you each and every day. Right. 100% of families in our province are better off because you have a government that values education.
PC leader Abi Khan says some families might feel differently.
We tabled today a single property in Waverley that's paying $1,300 more, and there will be more to come on this. We have a lot more that we're going to bring forward, and we're going to table over and over again to show that what the Premier is saying is simply not true. It is smoke and mirrors.
Now, Kinew has said in the past that his government is doing a better job funding education than the PCs. What's noteworthy, though, is that Kinew has stopped saying how many homeowners are saving money on their education property taxes through this new $1,500 credit. That estimate used to be 83%, but as assessments and mill rates keep rising, that percentage has dropped. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Manitoba charges against former fashion mogul Peter Nygard were once again the focus of a hearing in a Winnipeg courtroom. Nygard's lawyers arguing they should be stayed because she says the province's former Attorney General intervened. CBC's Josh Crabb has more.
83-year-old Peter Nygard appeared once again via video in a Winnipeg courtroom, at times asking a Crown attorney to speak louder. At issue, whether or not there was an abuse of process. It stems from when former Attorney General Kelvin Goertzen asked Saskatchewan for a second opinion after Manitoba prosecutors decided not to charge Nygard. In court, Crown Attorney Charles Murray argued Goertzen was honoring and respecting the community's sense of justice. A case like this, one that's high profile, it's important to get it right, Murray told court. That's what the Attorney General was trying to do because it was already on public display. The files of 8 women who said they'd been assaulted by Nygard were sent to the province's Justice Ministry for review in December 2020. In mid-2021, prosecutors decided not to lay charges. Then, the review in Saskatchewan resulted in Nygard being charged in 2023 with sexual assault and unlawful confinement involving one complainant. Nygard's lawyer Jerry Wiebe told court her client was treated differently. She argues the minister was responding to political pressure, media attention, and that the decision to ask for the review was unprecedented. It's a violation of the rule of law on its face to treat one person differently than you treat everyone else, simply because their case is high profile, Wiebe told court Monday. There's no denying that every day Crown opinions are given in sexual assault cases, that there is no reasonable likelihood of conviction. The only difference here is that one is in the media and one is not. Wiebe wants Nygard's Manitoba charges stayed. Murray says he's presumed innocent and will be fairly tried. It's simply a decision where he does have to answer to charges and that the victim is going to get their day in court. Goertzen has said he stands by his actions. The judge has reserved a decision in the matter. No date has been set. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg police are looking to bolster its ranks by looking beyond our borders. The service hopes to launch its first recruitment campaign outside of Manitoba this fall, but other local police departments are already going out of province to attract potential officers. Edmonton police have been in our city at least 3 times in the past year. The recruitment team here in Winnipeg says in order to be competitive, they need to expand their horizons.
There is a lot of places who do travel to recruit, and I think there's a lot of good applicants out there. And I think what we can sell is cost of living within the city of Winnipeg. Obviously, we want the best candidates and applicants that we have for police officers within our city.
According to Winnipeg's statistical report, the service had about 210 officers for every 100,000 residents in 2013. That number dwindled to just 164 last year. The burned-out remains of a Winnipeg industrial site have caught fire once again. It happened Saturday night in Point Douglas. Crews were seen spraying water on the massive Vulcan Ironworks warehouse on Sutherland Avenue. No one was injured and there's no cause released yet. The Vulcan Ironworks warehouse was first destroyed by fire in July 2023, but has been hit by multiple ones since then. It has been a busy few days for fire crews right around the province. Those high winds, high temperatures really wreaking havoc. And I know there is some positive news in the forecast because you do have some rain.
There's a good soaking rain coming to southern Manitoba later in the week. Of course, how much you get will depend on where you are, which we'll get into. But I do want to talk about the very hot weather that we've had over the last couple of days. We have one more very hot day yet to come. But let's just look at the numbers here. Let's start with talking about 30-degree days. Usually in Winnipeg, we get about one day where we're at 30 degrees in the month of May. So far, we've had 4 of those. I am including today in these numbers, and I'm rounding up here. Anything that was 29.5 degrees, anything that rounds up to 30, I've included in that number. So far, 4 of those days. Southern Manitoba's got at least one more of those yet to come, maybe a second one of those as we get into the day on Wednesday. So we're going to just jump back to Sunday here quickly because several temperature records fell. Not quite in Winnipeg Sunday, 31.5 degrees yesterday. We did break a record today unofficially from 1958. We'll look at those numbers again tomorrow once we see all of these numbers come in. But Portage La Prairie, Altona, Steinbach, Sprague breaking records from 1977. Altona 36.7 degrees. Emerson, the Canadian hotspot, at 37.8 degrees yesterday. That broke a record from last year, but broke that record by about 6 degrees from last year. So yes, a very hot day. Melita also breaking a record from 1940 at 33.7. So another one of these yet to come. That's because we have this ridge in the jet stream that has built, and it's funneling all of this air up from Mexico and the southern states right up into southern Manitoba and southern Saskatchewan. This does start to break down as we get through the next couple of days, but as we get through the day on Tuesday, this pattern does hold, and that's what's going to lead to another very hot day for us once again tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think, has a better chance of seeing some thunderstorms as opposed to this afternoon, but we did see some of that popping up on the Saskatchewan side of the border late afternoon. Once we get later in the week, we do start to see this ridge sliding off, and in behind that, a trough starts to form, and this is going to bring in some much cooler air and a little bit more unstable air as we get through the day into the weekend here, Friday into Saturday, and then this kind of blocks in here and leads to a considerably cooler weekend as we get toward the May long weekend. So overnight into Tuesday, maybe a few rumbles of thunder through the Swan Valley into the Parkland, a little bit more substantial rain into northern Manitoba to the tune of maybe even 10 to 15 millimeters as we get through the day on Tuesday. Into Wednesday, we'll start to bring in a little bit more cloud cover, and then the leading edge of some of this starts to make its way into Westman as we get through the afternoon. And then here's sort of the main event that will be coming Thursday into the day on Friday. A little early to talk amounts yet, but certainly I do expect a good soaking rain to wrap up the week here. First thing in the morning, 25 degrees by 8 o'clock in the morning in Winnipeg already. Yeah, it goes up from there to 36 in the afternoon. 29 for Wednesday, Brittany, and there's that rain I was talking about Thursday into Friday. And yes, 6 degrees to kick off that May long weekend.
Thank you, Riley. Well, we can think back to the gorgeous weekend we just had. You're looking at an event held at the Forks on Sunday by the city's Ukrainian community. We have more to come straight ahead. Donald Trump's planned 3-day visit to the Middle East is beginning with some momentum after Hamas agreed to release an American hostage it was holding. As Chris Brown reports, it's fueling hopes the U.S. president could use his influence not only to make big deals, but also to pressure Israel to end the war in Gaza.
As breakthroughs in this catastrophic war go, the release of hostage and U.S. citizen Idan Alexander was a modest one, though for his loved ones, an obviously euphoric moment. But the deal for his freedom appeared to cut out Israel. The U.S. negotiated with Hamas, leaving other Israeli hostage families incensed at their government.
Netanyahu is working on stalling and prolonging the war on the blood of Israeli civilians and Israeli soldiers.
The UN says Israel's blockade of Gaza has left 500,000 people facing starvation. Relentless bombing has killed thousands since its military broke the ceasefire in March. Hamas has said it will only release the remaining 20 or so hostages if Israel permanently ends its attacks, which it won't agree to. Trump is heading to a region that badly wants the war over. But Saudi Arabia, his first stop, also wants U.S. capital and know-how, and it's treating his visit like a giant trade fair. Saudi's so-called 2030 plan has seen dramatic change here as it tries to shift Western focus away from Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record and onto successes.
The biggest success is not brick and mortar. The biggest success is the change that we are seeing in society, the return to moderate Islam.
But this journalist says Saudi's leadership prizes regional stability, and as long as the war in Gaza rages, there is none.
The good thing about President Trump is he has the ability to convince everybody. My personal hope is that the U.S. will make a decision or take some actions that will help end this conflict.
Israel is taking partial credit for Alexander's release, saying it only happened because of its attacks on Gaza. Israel is going to send negotiators to Qatar, which should make for a dramatic few days, as that's where Donald Trump is headed after his business here. Chris Brown, CBC News, Riyadh.
U.S. and Chinese officials say they've made major progress towards a trade deal. Both countries are agreeing to take a big step back from their escalating tariff war. Aaron Collins reports.
The U.S. and China, in the midst of a trade war, declared a truce of sorts over the weekend. Both countries agreeing to reduce tariffs for 90 days while they work on a deal. After a weekend of trade talk, Chinese and American officials moving. China agreeing to slash their tariffs from 125% to just 10%. The U.S. will drop theirs from 145% to 30%.
The consensus from both delegations this weekend is neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred with these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo. And neither side wants that.
It's the news markets were waiting for. The Dow Jones and NASDAQ surging. The U.S. president hoping the de-escalation, the start of something bigger.
But the biggest thing to me is the opening up. I think it would be fantastic for our businesses if we could go in and compete with China.
That won't be easy and could come with a cost. Shipments to the U.S. from China are down more than 20% year over year. Bad news for the Chinese economy, but not good for American consumers either.
We have right now no ships leaving China for the West Coast. That's the first time we've seen that since the COVID pandemic. We are hearing retailers talk about empty store shelves within weeks.
Facing potential shortages and rising prices, the U.S. may need a deal as much as China, an opportunity for other countries like Canada.
With the U.S. key retail markets continuing to suffer, that may create additional leverage for Canada on which to rely in future negotiations to try and settle this tariff issue once and for all with the United States.
Canada and the U.S. could have an opportunity to make progress on a deal soon. The two countries will take part in G7 meetings in Alberta next month. This is the second time in recent days the U.S. has scaled back its global tariffs. Last week, tariffs on steel and aluminum from the U.K. were dropped as part of a framework for a trade deal with that country. Perhaps signs of de-escalation in this global trade war. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Washington.
The complainant is facing a second week of cross-examination in the sex assault trial of former World Junior hockey players. All 5 accused have pleaded not guilty. The woman, known only as EM due to a publication ban, again faced questions about the alleged incident in 2018. Ali Shiasen has more.
Today, EM was asked whether she recalls initiating sex in the hotel room with the hockey players. Alex Formanton's lawyer suggested she was, quote, egging them on to have sex with her. EM testified she doesn't recall doing that. She also testified that while her memory is fuzzy about the chronology of what sex acts happened when, she says she does remember the intercourse and with whom she allegedly had it with. One was with Michael McLeod consensually at the beginning of the night, and the other was allegedly with Alex Formanton. Today, his lawyer, Dan Brown, asked whether she remembers leading him to the bathroom. EM testified she remembers him following her to the bathroom where they allegedly had sex. Lisa Carnelos for Dylan Dubé picked up where Brown left off, suggesting to EM that she was, quote, taunting and threatening the men that she would leave if they didn't have sex with her. EM says that's not true. Instead, she testified that she was frustrated and upset when she allegedly wasn't allowed to leave. Carnelos also showed text messages EM sent to her best friend after she says she called her crying at 5 a.m. The friend asks, quote, hey girl, are you okay? Did you want to talk about anything? Or EM responds, hey, yeah, sorry, I'm okay, girl. I think I was just being over dramatic earlier, but I'm good. EM was testifying that she was downplaying at this point, saying she was still processing and didn't want to think about it. Cross-examination continues tomorrow. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Opening statements have started in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The music mogul faces charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's denied all the charges and rejected a plea deal. Chris Reyes has more from outside the New York courthouse. But first, a warning to viewers. Details in this story are disturbing.
Long lines and a massive media presence. That is the scene outside of the courthouse here in Lower Manhattan for the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. We saw his mother and his adult children go in this morning. The jury has been seated and both sides have concluded their opening statements, painting 2 very different versions of the music executive. According to the prosecution, Mr. Combs used his powerful empire to commit crimes, including sexual abuse and exploitation of women for years, kidnapping and arson. And all of it happened within the context of so-called freak-offs, sex parties fueled by drugs and male escorts that sometimes lasted for days. That he did this with the help of a loyal inner circle who did his bidding. According to the defense, Mr. Combs was engaged in highly charged but consensual relationships with women that had domestic violence, yes, but not sex trafficking or racketeering or any of the crimes he's been accused of. The first witness to take the stand was a security guard at the hotel where a 2016 altercation happened between Mr. Combs and his ex-girlfriend, model and musician Cassie Ventura. This video was leaked to media last year and clearly shows Mr. Combs brutally beating her. That video was also played for the jury. Ventura is a key witness in this case. The prosecution also promised to show videos of those so-called freak-offs filmed by the defendant. This trial is expected to last 8 weeks. Mr. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. If convicted, he could face up to life in prison. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
A shaky ceasefire brokered between India and Pakistan 2 days ago appears to be holding, but uncertainty over how long that will last is stirring up fear on both sides. As CBC's Salima Shivji reports, Indian officials are warning this truce is only a pause.
2 days after the fragile ceasefire began, an uneasy calm in one of the hardest hit towns in Indian-controlled Kashmir. Signs of the conflict embedded everywhere. My home was badly damaged, this man says. All we want is peace. On the other side of the line of control, the de facto border dividing Kashmir, people are slowly returning to homes abandoned in haste. Kala Khan never left. His family hunkered down in a bunker that he's ready to use again. We hid here from the shelling, he says. It's fully stocked if the ceasefire falls apart. That's a distinct fear for many here, used to the decades-long acrimonious battle between India and Pakistan for control of Kashmir. The latest flare-up lasted 4 intense days, triggered by a deadly attack on tourists that India blames on terrorists it says are backed by Pakistan, a claim Islamabad denies. Each side quickly claimed victory over the weekend. Fervor and cheers in Pakistan, with headlines praising the country's brave, glorious sons. In India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with top officials before telling the nation, Terror and talks can't go together. This is only a pause on military action, Modi says. We'll wait and see what Islamabad does. As many on both sides cling to the hope that the ceasefire will hold, there's a lot of uncertainty and unresolved issues. A crucial water-sharing treaty is still suspended. Pakistan desperately needs the water, but India is hinting it will take a hard line. And the shaky truce won't bring back those lost in the violent clashes. This new widow is inconsolable. The toll of the brief conflict hard to comprehend for so many. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Still to come, he was convicted in 2017 for robbing 6 banks and sentenced to more than 6 years in prison. Now, his story is the focus of a new documentary based here in Winnipeg. More on that coming up. Stay with us. The city has set up water tanks to provide drinking water amid these really hot temperatures. 4 water tanks have been deployed, one at Mount Carmel Clinic at Main and Stella, with others near Siloam Mission, Agape Table, and the 4th near Nidinimak. The city says people can also come in and cool off in civic facilities during regular operating hours as long as temperatures remain hot. And hot, those temperatures are, my goodness. The one thing that you can count on, though, is because we haven't hit that summer mark, it was cooler in the shade still, at least. We weren't dealing with that humidity as much.
Let's play a game.
much. Oh, no.
Who's warmer, Dallas, Texas, or the Winnipeg Jets?
The Jets. I mean, on the road,
the
the
ice.
game? If we're talking during the game or off the game, and which game we're talking about.
True.
Weather-wise,
Fair.
I'm going to say that we beat them, though.
We have. You guessed correct. So right now, Winnipeg, this is where I'm going to start. This is interesting. Winnipeg right now, 35 degrees. South winds at a bit of a clip right now, mix of sun and clouds. But look at the forecast for the two places here. You'd think that they wouldn't be this similar, but here we are. Dallas tomorrow, 35 degrees in the afternoon, 39 for Wednesday, a mix of sun and clouds. Winnipeg, 36. So, hey, we got them beat, at least on the weather front, as we get through the day tomorrow. So there you go. There's your trivia for the evening. Let's talk dog walking forecast, because you'll really want to make sure that the pup has the water, the everything, if you're going out for a walk tomorrow, because we are looking at another scorcher, particularly through the afternoon hours. Lacey and Brady, I think they will love to be outside tomorrow, especially in that sun. Please keep sending your pets to talkback at cbc.ca. Looking at 25 degrees first thing in the morning already, with a breezy southerly wind, 20 gusting to 40. So this sets us up for another windy day as we get through the day tomorrow. 36 by the afternoon, and still looking at temperatures as we head into the evening at around that 30-degree mark. Did you see that little flash of lightning? That's that risk of a thunderstorm as we get through the later part of tomorrow. That risk, if it's there, will be to the west of Winnipeg, around Portage la Prairie, Morden, Winkler. That's the best likelihood of seeing some thunderstorm activity through the late afternoon, early evening in southern Manitoba. But really, central and northern sections do have that risk, where the jet stream kind of cuts across central Manitoba here, with some of the colder air to the north clashing with this unstable hot air to the south. So that's the potential we have for some thunderstorms as we head through the day on Tuesday, particularly late day once again toward the supper hour, looking at the potential for some of those storms firing up. Overnight temperatures look like this: 12s through Swan River and Dauphin, 13 in Verdun, 16 in Brandon, 22 overnight in Winnipeg. I point this out because our normal daytime high for this time of the year is 19 degrees. So overnight temperatures still staying very warm throughout the Red River Valley. Peguis at 19 degrees. The Pas OCN 12, 7 with some rain starting through the night in Thompson, 5 degrees under cloud cover into Gillam. And you can see that system as it makes its way toward the Hudson Bay coast as we get through the day tomorrow. So some lingering showers through Flin Flon into Lynn Lake through the afternoon. 21 in the Pas and OCN, 19 in Grand Rapids in the south. Hot and sunny tomorrow, 36 in Winnipeg and Steinbach, 37 in Emerson, Brittany, 30 in Brandon. I'll have your 7-day forecast coming up.
You know what? I think we beat them with the temperature. We're also going to beat them on the ice. So let's go with that. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, it's local lore familiar to Winnipeggers of a certain generation, but now it's going worldwide. It's the story of former Winnipeg sports broadcaster Steve Vogelsang. He was convicted in 2017 for robbing 6 banks and sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. Now his story is a documentary called The Sexiest Man in Winnipeg. It's narrated by Canadian-born comedian and actor Will Arnett. CBC's Chloe Friesen spoke with the co-directors.
Charlie, I want to start with you. You're an Oscar-nominated documentary filmmaker from the United States. You're known for some famous films like Bowling for Columbine. But this is a very well-known story here in Winnipeg, of all places. How did you learn about Steve Vogelsang?
We were approached by Will Arnett's folks and the other producers behind the story, and asked if we were interested in helping bring the project to life. I was fascinated by the story. Steve seemed like the kind of character that you could only write, and he just sort of captured our imagination, I think. A former sportscaster, beloved local figure. We all have those people in our, local TV markets from either from childhood or whatever. And it's like imagining, Ron Burgundy come to life, and then here he robs a bunch of banks. Who is this guy? What's the story? What's really going on here? And so we were just fascinated by Steve as a character. I'm interested in character-driven stories, character-driven films, and Steve was the kind of person who you just couldn't get enough of. He was frustrating, difficult, ridiculous, but also ambitious, driven by driven by fame, maybe driven by his sort of personal demons, and he was a man who did not want to just be ordinary. It struck us, I think, that this was a guy who wanted to be extraordinary, wanted to live a life of consequence. And he went about doing that in some really questionable ways. But he was like a Walter Mitty kind of character, dreaming of an extraordinary life, but not content to just dream about it. He went and actually robbed those banks, didn't just fantasize about it.
And Ben, you made this documentary about a person who's an active participant in the documentary. He's featured. What was that like?
Well, this was one of the most challenging parts about Steve, because as Steve is, number one, a performer, right? He was great on air, to the point where he wrote his own bits and performed comedy bits. We were really intrigued by that. So we're like, okay, he had a story to tell, and we had a story to tell. So trying to figure out where those two stories met, plus the stories, the counter narratives from his ex-wife, from his friends, from all this different stuff, is where things got exciting for us. And so I think that's where the rubber hits the road with this thing. It's like trying to figure out how much of what Steve is saying is authentic and how much of it is a performance or a narrative.
And the film, from at least what I've heard in the trailer, it's got this kind of tongue-in-cheek tone to it. There's a bit of humor involved. And there's been some criticism that Steve Vogelsang created some real harm, as you mentioned, with his crimes. You talked to some of those people. How does addressing that real harm interact with the tongue-in-cheek humorous tone? How did you strike that balance?
Well, this was a big question in the cut. And, we had to decide which master are we serving. I think the master that we tried to serve is the ecstatic truth, as Werner Herzog says, like, what is the actual truth of this? And some of it is on its face quite ridiculous. But it is true that these are not victimless crimes. The people who were there, some of them were quite threatened and quite upset. And so we tried to at least address it in the film and be like, Steve, we're not letting you off the hook with this. I think one of the challenges for Steve was admitting that. And I don't think he has to this day. It's like, look, I didn't have a gun, what the hell? It's no problem. I only got $200, whatever. And people confronted him, including us, over and over again. The filmmakers like, no, you hurt people. And that's in the film. And that's something that Steve has to bear,
What do you hope Winnipeggers in particular who lived this story get out of it at the end?
I think that Steve is someone who wanted to be more than ordinary. I think Steve didn't want to just be an ordinary guy. And that's true for some people in the world. Ben and I have worked, around performers and comedians and musicians. Ben himself is a musician and a performer. There are some people who love fame, who want fame, who seek it. And people have a complicated relationship with it. There are some people who don't want fame, who don't want to be sort of in front of the camera, in the public eye. I've spent my career on the other side of the camera. And but once you've had a taste of that fame, it's hard to give it up from what I've seen. And it's pretty rare that you have someone who can kind of make their peace with losing any kind of notoriety, celebrity, fame. And so, you know, Steve is a guy who wanted to be more than ordinary. Is that a crime? Is it a crime to want to be famous? Is kind of one way of asking the question.
Right.
And, you know, and what lengths are people willing to go to get that fame and to preserve it?
Still ahead, a clumsy puppet duo celebrates 363 years. We'll take you there in our Daily Lift. Plus, Riley's back with the last check on the forecast. Stay with us. Winnipeggers were out looking for some freebies during the giveaway weekend. Now, some people spent hours driving around the city on a hunt. People like Joseph Contois and his family. He says it feels like the price of just about everything is going up these days, so this is a good way to save some money.
Just looking for camping gear and that, save us money when we go camping. People seem to give away good stuff for free, so drive around, enjoy the day. It's a nice day out.
The next giveaway weekend isn't until September.
All right, well, if you happen to be in a place where there's a clear sky above you tonight, well, you'll want to watch for the Mayflower moon. That's the name of our full moon in May, named after that because that's when the spring wildflowers start to bloom. The moon will be at 99.9% full until it sets early on Tuesday morning. So there you go, 36 degrees tomorrow afternoon, very, very hot one tomorrow. Another record breaker potentially for Winnipeg and other locations across the province. 29 for Wednesday, some clouds build in, maybe some showers late day, but then we get into some showers and some rain as we get Thursday into Friday. And look at that drop in temperatures, 36 degrees on Tuesday, all the way to 6. With a chance of showers on Saturday.
Not quite summer yet.
No, but we need the rain really badly, so we'll
true.
take it. Puppeteers from all over Europe gathered in London over the weekend to celebrate their craft.
Now, whether it was a clumsy character who wrestles with police or alligators and those who struggle to take care of children, there's something for everyone in our daily lift.
He can't hit a policeman, can he, everybody?
It was the 50th gathering of the Punch and Judy Festival. Children and adults alike were treated to non-stop shows featuring the clumsy puppet characters that have entertained adults and children alike for centuries. They were first spotted in London in May 1662. Yes, that makes them 363 years young.
It's a very simple format, very simple structure and very direct, because puppets can only do one thing if they're hand puppets, and that's pick props up and play with them.
So a marching band also performed here. The puppeteers paraded through the streets before attending a church service where many major names of film and theater have been commemorated over the years.
Wow, look at that, 363. Wow, looking good.
Absolutely. Don't look a day over 30.
Have a wonderful night. Get outside. Enjoy that weather while you can. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Drink lots of water.